Okay, so this is going to be the last video in today's class. Also, I'm getting a little cold out here and the sun is setting, so I am eager to be indoors. Um, this is going pretty well, though. I gotta say, I got like a whole station here, and I got look at like a call. Look at this. This is my whole station. See, I got my computer stitched out here. It's looking pretty good. So, all right. So the last thing I want to look at in terms of sort of the sort of homoerotic Coriolanus is just the ending, and this is really not a big deal. It's just kind of an epilogue. You've now heard all of the things that I think are really interesting about this play at this point, except for Volumina, who's definitely we're going to spend next. The next thing we're going to do in this play is look at the women. But when I say look at the women, there's not a whole lot to say about Virgilia and Valeria. But Volumina, Coriolanus's mom, is an absolute terror, and she's amazing. We're going to be spending lots of time on her. But before we get to that, I just want to look briefly at the end of the play and what really makes Coriolanus die. Um, Phidias, of course, is jealous, and he becomes jealous, and that's something. All of his soldiers end up liking Coriolanus better than they like him, and he's jealous. He's fundamentally jealous of the guy, and so he wants to get rid of him. But notice also that the issue here is men. It's that all the men used to love Aufidius, and Aufidius, when Coriolanus joins Aufidius, the men love Coriolanus more than they love Aufidius. It's not quite the same thing, but it's related. The idea that it's affection between men, and that Coriolanus has, in having Coriolanus's affection, he's lost his soldiers' affection. Um, and so he has to kind of attack Coriolanus some other way to kind of get his revenge. And the thing that drives Coriolanus up the wall at the end is being called boy. You can see it right on the very last page here, 36. Um, um, he says, "Thou measureless liar that is made." He called him boy, and Coriolanus can't believe he called him boy. Boy, oh slave, pardon me, lord. This is the first time that ever I was forced to scold your judgment. He's very upset and angry about it. And Coriolanus says it again. Men and lads, strain all your edges on me. Boy, I can't believe you called me boy. He says, you have written your annals true. That's in your history books. 'Tis there that like an eagle in a dovecote I fluttered your Volscians and Coriolis. I alone did it. Boy, right? He can't believe he called him a boy three times. Coriolanus is just so upset to be called a boy. It's worth thinking about. This is a tricky thing to say. But have you ever heard, like, save the women and children first? In culture, we tend to put men on one side and women and children on the other, in terms of sort of thinking about gender dynamics. So even though he's being called a boy, which is a young man, the effect here is he's calling him a woman. Because we tend to associate women and children in a block. They're effeminate, and so one of the ways of reading that final insult, boy, because one of the things he's just doing is being disrespectful, right? This is a grown ass man who's accomplished a lot of stuff, not a newborn boy who's like barely done anything. He's weak and alone, but it's a word also that I don't know if you remember this, but Volumina, before we went on this insane COVID online teaching thing, we looked at the speech that Black Panther's dad, Cominius, gave about Coriolanus. And one of the things he notes is that Coriolanus was sent off to war at 16 years old before he even had a beard. They said his Amazonian chin. Well, why Amazonian? And we talked about this in class, because the Amazons are female warriors. And so Coriolanus went to battle so young that he didn't have a beard, and he looked like a fighting woman. And here at the end, that's the beginning of his military career. Here at the end of his military career, Aufidius calls him a boy. So once again, we're brought full circle, and the idea is the same. The first time, when they said he was a 16-year-old boy fighting and he didn't have a beard, they said he's like a woman. And then there's something, his homoerotic relationship with Aufidius seems to suggest, like, one way of thinking about that is it effeminized? Is he effeminate in some way as a result of that? And again, these guys aren't really, I think, fully aware of what they're saying, but it's in there. And so this final insult with boy is a kind of feminization. Remember, Coriolanus' whole life is caught up with being like Macbeth, with being a manly man and being like a true man. And everything about him screams manly man, masculinity, right? Honor, and bravery, and violence, and war, and never stop fighting, and never compromise, and all these kind of traditional masculine values. So it's really important that in his final moment in the play, he's called a boy. And he is extremely upset by this, and it's what drives him absolutely up the wall. So much so he can't believe it, that he repeats it 3 or 4 times. So, boy, I can't, like, it sees in quotation marks because he's like, I can't believe you called me that. And then down here, boy, I can't believe you called me that. I killed all your guys. I can't believe you called me a boy. And it just wrecks him. And then they kill him, and they all stab him. And of course, one of the ironies of the end of the play is that Coriolanus, it's very hard to know how to describe Coriolanus, because on the one hand, he's extremely honorable, because he's always true to himself. He has integrity. But of course, being honorable has led him to become a traitor against his own country, right? Which is the opposite of being honorable. And so he's in this funny spot where, on the one hand, you could describe him as honorable because he always remained true to himself, but he's dishonorable to his country. And here he gets a dishonorable death, which is that it's not even like, I'm sure what Coriolanus really would have wanted is a proper, fair duel with Aufidius, but Aufidius keeps losing, and Aufidius is sick of losing. And so all of the soldiers just come on him with knives and stab him. And it's a very kind of depressing ending for the guy. Coriolanus would have loved to die in a fair fight. And instead, he's humiliated by having all these little dudes stick their knives in him. Please notice that echoes the problem at the beginning of the play, which is the idea that they're all of the regular poor people. There's more poor people than there are rich people. So how do you prevent the poor people from just stabbing all the rich people and taking their money? And Coriolanus was worried about what happens when you get a whole bunch of poor people against a very small nobility, that they're going to overwhelm them, not because they're smarter or stronger, but there's just more of them. And that's exactly how he dies. Not because his enemies are better on the battlefield, there's just more of them. And so he loses. And he's killed in this very kind of depressing way. And then Aufidius gets some final words about him. He says, my rage is gone, and I am struck with sorrow. Right, the last thing that he has to say here. Aufidius is sad. He actually really admired Coriolanus, and as soon as he kills him, he feels immediately bad about it. My rage is, I'm not angry anymore. My rage is gone, and I am struck with sorrow. Take him up. Help 3 of the chiefest soldiers. I'll be one. He's going to help carry his body. Beat thou the drum that it speak mournfully. Trail your steel pikes. Though in this city he hath widowed and unchild many a one, which to his hour bewail the injury, yet shall he have a noble memory. Assist. Right? He says he wants help giving Corey, even though Coriolanus, left all these women and children sort of widowed in the city. He wants help kind of moving the guy and treating him in a weird way respectfully, even though it's a funny moment. But he was like, I hate this guy. I'm so jealous because Coriolanus says all my soldiers like him better than they like me, and I'm so angry about it. And it's amazing that as soon as he kills him, he feels bad about it and wants to try to do something kind of honorable for Coriolanus, who has been an incredibly complicated character. So that's the end of the section of Coriolanus, and we will return next time. I want to talk about women, particularly his mom, who is an absolute terror and one of my favorite characters. And one way to think about her is that she's like what Lady Macbeth would have been if, instead of her husband dying, Volumnia is what Lady Macbeth would have been if, instead of her child dying, her child lived and her husband died. It's Lady Macbeth as single mom. And we will talk more about that next time. So thanks for joining me. Please comment in the post below and stay in touch with me. And if you have trouble commenting, email me. I'm going to try to fix the commenting problem. And I don't know. Good luck. Stay safe out there. You guys are all amazing.